Hey guys, so this is going to be one of the first video of many that I'm going to be doing. Um, I just got my YouTube channel set up. It's going to be J&J Airsoft, just like the Facebook group. I'm going to be uploading a lot of videos. I probably should have done it a long time ago, but, you know, I'm lazy. So I'm finally going to do it. My videos are going to be in HD, so, it's just going to be a lot easier for everybody to be able to be paying attention to what exactly it is that I'm doing. Um, Not only am I gonna post, reviews and my personal builds as well as customer builds, but I'm also going to be doing tutorials for internal upgrades, fixes, things like that. Just simpler stuff, just so that, I want this kind of information to get out there. I want people to be able to tech their own guns. Um, and, that just I'm not really in it for the money. I don't make very much money off of this. This is really just a hobby of mine. I love teching guns. I love passing on the knowledge. I love experimenting, and I love airsoft in general. So I want to make sure that I am able to, convey as much of my knowledge over to you guys, so you guys can go ahead and make your own stuff and experiment yourselves, and keep the ball rolling forward in the world of airsoft, because you never know, the next airsoft invention might come from one of you guys. It doesn't necessarily need to be me or some other known tech. It could be one of you. So I'm going to go ahead and start making these videos. And without further ado, I'm going to start today with something pretty simple. This is just going to be how to, maintain the compression in your gearbox. When you've owned a gun for approximately 6 or so months, if you used it regularly, what'll happen is the O-ring will start to lose its, it'll start to wear away. It'll also start to shrink a little bit, and you won't get as much compression out of your gun. So you'll lose FPS, you'll lose range, you'll lose your accuracy, because without a good airflow, none of the other things can work like they should. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the most important parts of your compression. Obviously, you've got your piston with your piston head. This is just a standard piston. I think it's out of a SEMA. I just pulled this out of a gun that I am currently doing upgrades on, and so I wanted to go ahead and show you guys what I'll be doing. Obviously, then you've got your cylinder, the ported cylinder for an M4 length barrel, and your cylinder head. This has just got one O-ring, but I'll show you guys how to optimize just the stock cylinder head here in just a little bit. Then after that, of course, we've got our, let me grab it here. We've got our nozzle. Now this is just a standard nozzle, no O-ring in it. But I'll show you how to optimize it as well without having to upgrade to different parts. So obviously keep in mind that this video is more of a how to maintain your gun with the parts that you have, not really how to upgrade them or what parts to use for upgrades. I'll get into that in later videos. So first of all, the first thing you got to do is you got to test out what your compression is looking like. So remove the nozzle and make sure that your cylinder head is securely attached to the cylinder. Go ahead and plug the end of it with your finger. You guys have probably seen this done a million times. And then with the O-ring installed, go ahead and push your piston quickly into the cylinder. And you see it's not stopping. It's just going all the way through. There's almost no compression in this setup. So first thing is first, you got to go ahead and either replace the O-ring or you can heat treat it. I prefer to just replace it. You can go to Home Depot, any good hardware store, and buy some O-rings. They're usually in the plumbing section. They'll run you, $4 for like a pack of 10 or something like that. They're not very expensive, not one of the more expensive upgrades at all. But yeah, just go ahead and grab, it's a size 14, I believe. So just go ahead and grab some of those, and you should be good to go. I usually like to just replace them, but if you're in a pinch and you don't have any, or you really don't want to have to put a brand new one in, what you could opt for, even though it's cheap just to put a brand new one in, is to heat treat your O-ring. Now, heat treating, what it does is it expands your O-ring back to its original size. If you're using a brand new O-ring, you can also heat treat a brand new O-ring, and if you do that, then you'll also be optimizing how much surface area it has. So first things first. So if you're using the O-ring that came with the piston, you're not wanting to use a new one, go ahead and take it off your piston and clean it off, with the rags, paper towel, whatever, just so there's no residue left on it from the grease. And then what you need to do is you can grab your just the cylinder that you're using or whatever, and what you want to do is you want to wrap the O-ring around the cylinder. Now it might be a little bit hard, so you gotta make sure you got the play right. Once you got it on there, you're gonna grab either a lighter or one of these, and basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna rotate the cylinder while you have the flame on. You're gonna just let the flame just barely lick the O-ring. So let me go ahead and do that now. Obviously you don't want to hold it in one place for too long or you'll melt it. But yeah, just heat it up. Take your time. Like I said, don't hold it in one place too long. I've done it before. It smells horrible. So just do that for a little bit. Make sure you get it all the way around. Okay. So that's a heat treated O-ring. Now you'll notice it's expanded because it won't be nearly as hard to get it back onto the cylinder as it was before. So reinstall it onto your piston head, and you'll notice it's going to be a lot looser. It's going to have a lot more play, and that's because it's expanded. You actually want that. You don't want a O-ring that's tied up against the cylinder and won't move at all. You want an O-ring that actually has a little bit of play and is wider than the cylinder. So now the next important step is obviously to lube your cylinder, to lube your O-ring. This is a kind of lube that I use. It's called Super Lube. Somebody in the comments is going to make fun of Super Lube. I just know it. But this is the kind of stuff you want to be using for basically everything in your gearbox. I use this for the gears. I use this for the compression parts. It's completely synthetic, so it's not going to eat anything away. I know some guys like to use specific kinds of grease for their gears that is oil-based. I just like to avoid that altogether because, especially when you're running really high FPS builds, that grease is going to go everywhere and it's going to get to your O-ring and it's going to start corroding it. So I like to just, do away with any possibility of that and just go ahead and use the synthetic grease on all my parts. It's worked perfectly for me. I have never had any problems with it. It's what all techs recommend, so it's what I use. It's funny because sometimes I'll get into arguments with people who are not techs, and they try to tell me that some other grease is better, and I don't know what it is about some people. It's just a superiority complex or something like that, and they have to argue with me. But yeah, so this is the kind of grease that I would recommend you use. Take that with a grain of salt, I suppose. Anyways, you want to go ahead and grab just a little bit, not too much. Definitely less than if you were to, get toothpaste to brush your teeth or something. So about this much, and just go ahead and start smearing that inside the cylinder. Make sure you coat all of it, all the way from the bottom to the top. Make sure you got that nice, slick surface. You don't want to put too much in there. Make sure it's always, a generous amount, but not too much. If you put too much, you're just going to start gunking things up, and you're going to be shooting out a lot of grease, and that's going to affect your accuracy and going to affect, your range and stuff like that. So you don't want to do that. Then after that, grab your piston, and go ahead and use a little bit less this time. I barely use any, something like that, and just go ahead and grease your O-ring, and then put your piston with O-ring in there. Make sure everything's nice and symmetrical, and then retest your compression. Now it's stopping where it needs to stop, right after the port. My compression is so good right now that it's actually springing back. That's where you want to be with your compression. So right there, we probably just went from an FPS drop of about 50 and we just bumped it up again to what it was originally. So say the gun was shooting 400 originally, went down to 350, 320 FPS, we just bumped it right back up just with that simple compression mod. The biggest mistake a lot of people make is they think, oh, my spring wore out. Springs do wear out, but you're not going to lose that much FPS. Maybe 10, on extreme cases, 20 FPS from the lesser quality springs, but really you're not going to lose that much compression just because your spring is old. You're going to lose compression in your compression parts. That's why it's called compression. So this is what you want to do about every 6 months. If you play more often, even more often than that, it's really not that hard. And that's going to keep your gun shooting at a desirable FPS. Then after that, you're going to go ahead and install your air nozzle. And I like to just grease this the cylinder head just a little bit, and then insert your nozzle. Now, I'll get into some videos explaining what kind of compression parts and upgrade parts you want to get, but you definitely, down the line, especially if you want the most FPS out of the spring that you're using, out of the parts you're using, you definitely want to get yourself an O-ring nozzle, because the nozzles that come in basically every stock gun except for a few are pretty crappy. You'll lose a lot of FPS there. I've seen jumps of FPS anywhere between 10 to 30 depending on the brand, depending on how loose the nozzle is on the cylinder. This nozzle surprisingly is pretty tight up against the cylinder, so not losing too much compression. You'll lose a little bit when the nozzle is in its actual shooting position. So because every time you shoot, your nozzle goes back and forth, and I'll show you that in other videos, and that's because of your tappet plate. And you'll actually, when the nozzle is all the way retracted, and you do the compression test, you actually won't notice really any difference as if it weren't there. When you'll notice a difference is if you actually put it into its shooting position, which is all the way up like this, and then shoot it. You'll notice a little bit of FPS loss out of the nozzle. So that's the true test. There's an easier way to do it once it's actually in the gearbox, and I'll show that in a later video as well. But that's it, guys. For now, just keep in mind that's how you can maintain your compression parts. That's how you can maintain your FPS. Very easy. I basically did this for free, save for the grease, which is $5. That's all you really need to do to keep your compression really, really, just perfected. So if you have any questions, go ahead and shoot me a message or comment below. But I'll see you next time, guys.